never made it, but I know what it takes. I'm motivated by a mix of emotion. Got my statement, and I'm reading it slow so I can understand it fully. Appreciate my standing, go out of this world and right on time. Oh, never in my life have I seen the sky light up like this. I'm far away from Earth and I wanna know if you exist. Mission control, do you read me? Send me my coordinates lately. Mission control, am I drifting? Tie me to someone who will love me. Yeah, wait, I think I'll last.
Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone to another Ref Brandon and the Todd family YouTube video. Wherever you are, whatever you may be doing, thank you so much for making Ref Brandon and the Todd family a part of your day. We always greatly appreciate it. Can the Florida Gators even win 6 games this year in college football? I'll talk about that coming up here in a couple of minutes, but first, I want to tell you where I will be this Saturday night, and that is the Kings Mountain American Legion building. The actual physical address is KM American Legion Post 155, which is the American Legion building in Kings Mountain, North Carolina. This will be an indoor event. We'll have food, motorcycles, wrestling, and more. Bell time is 7 o'clock. Tickets are $10 except for veterans. Veterans tickets are $5. This is a joint wrestling show between WFC, which is Wrestling for Christ, and NMCW, which is New Millennium Championship Wrestling. The special speaker will be Richard Blackwell. So if you're in the upstate of South Carolina or the mountains of North Carolina, come on out. Saturday night, 7 o'clock bell time at the KM American Legion Post 155 in Kings Mountain, North Carolina, for a joint wrestling show from WFC and NMCW. For more information, you can go to the Wrestling for Christ Facebook page and see the flyer for the show this upcoming Saturday night. But will the Florida Gators win 6 games? And I've talked about them a few times here during the off season on the channel and how I think they're just not going to be any good. And of course, last year they were 6-6, and all this talk about how Billy Napier's doing everything the wrong way. If they go 6-6 again this year, his seat is not going to be hot. It's going to be scorching going into the 2024 season. But then when you look at their schedule and the fact that Florida's just not very good, I don't see how you can give them more than 6 wins, possibly 7 if you're an absolutely insane Gator fan. But I think 7 is their absolute ceiling. But let's talk about it for a minute and tell me what you think. I love reading each and every person's comments. I'll run down the schedule first, and then I'll tell you what I think they're going to do. Open up the season on August 31st against the Utah Utes. And then they play McNeese State on September 9th. September 16th, they play Tennessee. 23rd of September, they play Charlotte. And then they wrap up the month of September against the Kentucky Wildcats. Open up October against the Commodores of Vanderbilt on the 7th. And then on the 14th, they play the Gamecocks. And of course, they're off the 3rd Saturday in October because, as always, they wrap up October Halloween weekend against Georgia on October 28th. Heading into the month of November, they play Arkansas on the 4th, LSU on the 11th, Missouri on the 18th, and then, of course, they wrap up the season, as always, Thanksgiving weekend on the 25th of November against the Florida State Seminoles. Now, to me, they're going 2-2 out of conference. I think they beat McNeese State, and I think they beat Charlotte, who is absolutely just flat out pitiful. It's amazing that Charlotte had that young head coach named Will Healy, and about 5 years ago, he had a really good year at Charlotte, and everybody wanted him. He stayed at Charlotte, and then he got fired last year because they were absolutely an embarrassment. So they beat Charlotte, and then they lose to Florida State. So out of conference, they beat McNeese State and Charlotte, but they lose to Utah and Florida State. But in conference, I think they beat Vanderbilt, I think they beat Arkansas, and I think they beat Missouri. I think they lose to Tennessee, I think they lose to Georgia, and I think they lose to LSU. So that puts them at 3-3 in the SEC, 5-5 overall. 2 swing games, and that's Kentucky on September 30th, and then 2 weeks later, South Carolina on October the 14th. Now, Kentucky almost always gives Florida fits. I think Kentucky has improved this year in the passing game because Devin Leary is a good quarterback as he transfers in from NC State. But we know that Mark Stoops is going to run the ball. He's going to live and die with the run game. And Kentucky's just lost so much in the running game department that I just don't know what kind of offense they're going to have. Now, Devin Leary, as I said, is a step up in the passing game, but Devin Leary cannot run. So if Kentucky struggles to run the ball out of the backfield, they're not going to get anything from Devin Leary. He'll throw the ball all day long, but he is not a running quarterback. And then South Carolina has the talent, but if you look at the track record of their new offensive play caller, Dowell Loggins, everywhere he's been, he's sucked. And everywhere he's been, all he's done is get the head coach fired. Why Shane Beamer hired him, I don't know. So if Dowell Loggins continues his track record of sucking on offense, I can see Florida beating South Carolina. So between Kentucky and South Carolina, I'll say they win one of those 2 games. That'll put them at 4-4 in the SEC, 6-6 overall. Maybe they get both and go 7-5. But I think if you think they're anything better than 7-5, you're crazy. I just don't see any way they beat Utah, Tennessee, Georgia, LSU, and Florida State. That's 5 automatic losses. So they have to win every other game on the schedule to go 7-5. And you're talking about a head coach that everybody says is way over his head. And we're talking about a quarterback coming in with a completely new game plan than what he did at Wisconsin. So I just don't know. So I'll go with 6-6, possibly 7-5. Any thoughts on this, please feel free to let me know. Homes for Our Troops is a publicly funded 501c nonprofit organization that builds and donates specially adapted custom homes nationwide for severely injured post 9/11 veterans. Since the 2004 inception, nearly 90 cents of every dollar spent has gone directly to our program services for veterans. Visit at hfotusa.org. Let's go ahead and get our dad joke of the day in here. I visited my doctor today, and he told me that I'm going deaf. That was difficult to hear. And that does it for today's Ref Brandon and the Todd Family YouTube video. Until next time, it's Ref Brandon saying, just like in pro wrestling, life can be over by the count of 3. Tell your friends and family how much you love them. Bye.